The founder of NIO, William Li, recently spoke out at an event in Beijing. He spoke about NIO's plans for expanding overseas into Europe later in 2021 and in the coming years. XPEV recently announced that they already sent their first batch of vehicles over to Norway, and they have plans of expanding into other European countries later in 2021. So NIO wants to make sure they get in on the action and they don't fall behind. So in today's video, I'm first going to go over what William Li said in this Beijing event about expanding overseas. After that, I'm going to go over how it will affect NIO's stock price moving forward. And finally, make sure to stick around until the end because I'm going to talk about NIO, XPEV, and Li Auto, where I see all three of these companies' stock prices into 2021 and in the coming years. For those of you who are new here, my name is Michael. I'm a 21-year-old investor, entrepreneur, and full-time college student. In the past 30 days, I've made over $175,000 in one of the many investment accounts that I share with you in our private group on Patreon. So if you'd like to know more about what stocks I'm buying, what stocks I'm selling in my personal investment accounts, you want exclusive content that I don't share on YouTube, and if you want pre-release access to my new show called The Stock Room, where I talk with my 80-year-old friend about stocks, investing, and just money in general, well, then make sure to join our group using the link down below. So anyways, let's talk about NIO and their founder, William Li. William Li, the founder of NIO, said that it is now more difficult to compete globally than in previous years, but that they have a market like China as a foundation and should be determined to participate. He explained how the international situation has changed very much in the past couple of years, in the past 2 years, and NIO, relying on such a huge market as China, undoubtedly has a more solid foundation to participate in global competition than other EV startups in China. William Li goes on to explain in this event at Beijing that in the next 10 years that he hopes NIO will not only be able to achieve success in China, but that he also hopes NIO has its own position in the global market of smart electric vehicles. He said, although it's going to be a very tough situation, it's going to be tough to do to compete globally with major companies and automakers around the globe, he's still very confident that they will be able to do it. He had mentioned in his speech that in China, the high-end vehicle market is dominated by traditional luxury brands, and he says it's very impossible, very difficult to break into this by just focusing on technology. So he explained that the way NIO has been differentiating themselves from other companies like Tesla and other luxury vehicles in China is by focusing on service. He explained how NIO's battery as a service model sets them apart from all other electric vehicle makers. It makes cars a little bit cheaper and it makes it more convenient. It's almost like they're setting up gas stations, but they're battery swapping stations all across the country that make it easy for consumers to just swap out their battery, get a new one. They're making it easier to own electric vehicles. So he said that is how they've been able to stand apart. On top of this, he explained how NIO is fully committed to developing the next generation of its smart vehicle platform, which will be announced within the near future. Possibly this could be at NIO Day. He didn't hint at this, but with NIO Day coming up in January, that'll be a huge announcement. And if they are to start making major technological advances with their self-driving, with new vehicle models, well, that will definitely have dramatic impacts on the stock price. Most likely, it'll cause it to increase. As long as there's good news at this NIO event, well, then we can expect to see a dramatic increase in the stock price. He said that the ultimate form of smart electric vehicle products is still in the process of being formed, and he believes that they'll truly see revolutionary smart electric vehicle products in the coming years, and NIO is just going to keep adding on to what they're doing right now. So they already are innovating with their battery as a service model, their battery swapping stations, their self-driving technology, and he says they're going to continue to do that so that they can compete with companies like Tesla. One thing to keep in mind, though, is that while he is determined to compete globally, and he says this is going to be a major challenge, they haven't yet started to compete globally yet. On the other hand, though, one of their competitors in China, XPEV has already sent a batch of 100 vehicles to Norway to start expanding into Europe. XPEV's price range is a lot lower. They're targeting lower to middle-end customer than NIO. NIO's focused on the high-end customers because NIO is more expensive than Tesla. But XPEV just sent its first 100 units of its G3 crossover to Norway. And the G3 is priced at about $41,000. So that's still on the higher end, mostly because batteries are still expensive. Electric vehicles are still expensive to produce relative to combustion engine vehicles. But this price should come down as time goes on. One thing to keep in mind, though, is that XPEV is already looking to expand into other European markets as well, and they're going to spend the next 12 months trying to figure out which market should be the best entry point after Norway. The reason that they went into Norway first is because of government policies in Norway and advanced charging infrastructure that already exists in Norway. Right now, while it is a small market, Norway already has 80% of vehicles registered there in Q3 of this past year in 2020 were already plug-in or electric vehicles. So they are much further ahead in the sustainable energy and electric vehicles than all the other countries in the world. So that is why XPEV looked towards Norway first, because it was just a good fit for them to enter that market first. They didn't have to do much advertising or push much for it because all the infrastructure is already set up. The government is pushing for electric vehicles, and consumers are more likely now to buy electric vehicles than combustion engine vehicles in Norway. XPEV president and vice chairman Brian Gu came out and said that in the long run, if you want to be a successful EV company, you have to be a global one. So he said that is why they've moved very quickly into start expanding overseas into Europe. They want to get in on the ground floor. And he says they're starting the effort to build their presence, doing limited testing. They're sending smaller batches to, let's say, Norway. They're going to start sending the same size batches to other countries because they're treating this as a very long-term strategy where they can start entering the markets, start building up brand recognition in other countries, so then eventually when they can go in and they have the capacity to produce more vehicles, then customers will already be aware of their vehicles. They'll already have some on the streets there. So one thing to keep in mind is with NIO that they have not yet sent vehicles to Europe yet. William Li came out and spoke in this press conference, says how it's very important they do that, but in my opinion, they need to make sure they start looking overseas and they get this done fairly quickly because vehicles are being sold faster than originally anticipated. Electric car companies have gotten a lot of support in 2020, and it's going to keep growing, and it's going to be a snowball effect until majority of vehicles sold each year are going to be electric vehicles. As batteries get less and less expensive for them to be developed, and as customers and consumers are more likely to buy them, NIO's going to have to really move quickly to get into Europe. Moving forward with all the stock prices, though, for Li Auto, XPEV, and NIO, I see them all increasing dramatically in the next couple of years. Currently, in the Chinese market alone, they're predicting that 30% of all vehicles sold in China are going to be electric vehicles by 2025. And as of right now, less than 5% of the vehicles being sold are electric. So that means companies like NIO, XPEV, Li Auto, Tesla, all these companies are going to have to produce significantly more vehicles every single year. They're not able to keep up with the demand right now. And for that reason alone, I think all three of these companies are great investments long term. I don't look at the short-term fluctuations. I think right now is a great time to get into all of these companies, especially with the NIO event in January of 2021, with Li Auto reporting delivery numbers beating expectations significantly, and XPEV now already in Europe. They're ahead of the game with global expansion. So anyways, that's what's going on with NIO, XPEV, and Li Auto, what William Li, the founder of NIO, said in a press conference in an event in Beijing, and where I see the stocks in the future. But I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Don't forget to get your 4 free stocks, each value up to $1,600, when you download the Webull investing app using the link down below. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.